Welcome back to the Midnight Tapes. Get comfortable. Turn the lights down low, pull the blanket up, and let the rain settle in around you. Tonight's stories come from our screens. Not from graveyards, not from old houses with locked rooms, not from forests where the branches scratch at the windows, but from the bright small things we keep beside our beds and carry in our hands all day. The phones, the cameras, the tablets, the laptops, the little black speakers on the counter that wait politely for us to say their names, the doorbells that see our porches, the baby monitors that watch our children sleep, the televisions that go dark and become mirrors when the room gets quiet. We live among them now. We speak near them without thinking. We undress in front of them. We sleep beside them. We let them into nurseries, bedrooms, kitchens, living rooms, and every secret corner of our lives. We tell ourselves they are tools, conveniences, harmless arrangements of glass and metal and code. We tell ourselves that because we bought them, installed them, named them, and connected them to our own accounts, they belong to us. But every screen is a window, and a window works both ways. Every camera that lets you see out is also a place where something might see in. Every microphone waiting for your voice is also an ear waiting in the dark. Every notification is a knock. Every call is a doorway opening. Every message is something crossing a distance that should have kept it away. We have filled our homes and our pockets and our bedsides with glowing doors, and after a while we stopped asking what might be standing on the other side of them. These stories come from people who learned, too late, that being connected does not only mean reaching the world. Sometimes it means the world reaching back. Sometimes it means that something far away, something without hands or feet or a face you would recognize, can find the line leading into your house and follow it all the way to the quiet room where you sleep. You do not have to stay awake for all of them. Let your eyes close whenever they want to. Your screen is dark tonight, and that is how it should stay. You are safe here. The door is locked. The rain is soft. The dark is only the dark. Just do not answer a message from your own number. Let us begin. The security camera feed. I installed the cameras after a burglary 2 streets over. It was the sort of thing everyone in the neighborhood talked about for a week and then pretended to forget. A back door forced open. Drawers emptied. Jewelry taken. No one hurt, thankfully, but that hardly mattered once the idea got into my head. The idea that someone could enter your house while you were gone, move through your rooms, open your drawers, stand in the places where you stand barefoot in the morning, and leave again with a piece of your life in their pockets. I told myself I was being sensible. Not paranoid. Sensible. So I bought a small home security system. 3 cameras at first. 1 in the living room, angled toward the front door. 1 in the hallway, catching the stairs and the bedroom doors. 1 in the nursery, because our youngest was still small enough that I liked the idea of being able to check on him without opening the door and waking him. They were the modern kind, sleek and white, with little dark lenses like patient eyes. They connected to an app on my phone. Motion alerts. Night vision. 2-way audio. Cloud storage. Peace of mind, the box said. Peace of mind. For the first few weeks, that was exactly what it felt like. I would check the app from work and see the empty living room glowing in grainy daylight. I would watch the dog walk through the hall and get a motion alert that made me laugh. At night, if I woke for no reason, I would open the app and look at the soft green night vision view of my sleeping house. The couch. The coat rack. The hallway. The nursery crib. The ordinary spaces of my life, made strange by the camera's eye, but comforting because they were mine. After a while I started checking it too much. You know how these things become habits. The phone is already in your hand, the app is right there, and with one tap you can see your house from wherever you are. I told myself I was making sure the doors were closed, making sure the baby was sleeping, making sure the dog had not knocked anything over. Really, I think I liked the feeling of being able to see the place where my family lived even when I was not in it. It made the house feel protected, watched over. That is what I thought watching meant. The night it happened, I could not sleep. There was no reason for it. The room was cool. The rain was steady against the windows. My wife was asleep beside me, one arm under the pillow, breathing the deep, even breath of someone far away from waking. The children were asleep down the hall. The house had settled into that heavy silence that comes after midnight, when even the appliances seem to run more quietly. I lay there for a while, staring at the ceiling, and then, without really deciding to, I reached for my phone. The screen lit my face blue in the dark. I opened the camera app. The nursery was quiet. My son was curled on his side in the crib, one fist against his cheek. The hallway was empty. The living room feed took a second longer to load, the little spinning circle turning and turning, and when the image appeared, I saw someone standing in the room. For a moment my mind refused to understand what it was looking at. A person. In my living room. Standing in the middle of the carpet, facing the camera. The night vision made everything pale and flat. The furniture was silver green. The windows were black rectangles. The figure was darker than the room around it, a vertical shape with a head and shoulders and arms hanging down at its sides. It stood perfectly still, not moving like a thief, not crouching, not searching, not hurrying. Just standing there, as if it had been waiting for the feed to load. My body went cold all at once. I remember the physical sensation of it, as sharp as stepping into freezing water. My thumb missed the emergency call button twice. My breath became shallow and noisy. I did not want to wake my wife because waking her would make it real, and I did not want to stop looking because if I stopped looking I would not know where the intruder went. The figure did not move. It stood in my living room and faced the camera. Then it lifted one hand and waved. Slowly. Not the nervous wave of someone caught where they should not be. Not the mocking wave of a burglar showing off for a camera. It was too deliberate for that. Too calm. It raised its hand to shoulder height, opened the fingers, and moved them once, gently, side to side. It was greeting me. That was the moment I understood that it knew I was watching. There is something particularly terrible about seeing a person on a camera look directly into the lens. A camera is supposed to make you invisible. That is the bargain. You observe without being observed. You are safe because you are elsewhere. But the figure in my living room had looked through the lens as if the lens were an eye, and through the eye it had found me in my bed, down the hall, phone in hand, face lit by the screen. I whispered to my wife. I think I said her name. I think I said there was someone in the house. But my voice came out so thin that she did not wake. On the feed, the figure turned. It did not go toward the front door. It did not go toward the kitchen, or the window, or the hallway that led back outside. It turned toward the interior hall. Toward the bedrooms. Toward me. It left the living room frame, and the app automatically highlighted the hallway feed because motion had been detected. My phone buzzed once in my hand, a cheerful little notification. Motion detected, hallway. I stared at the new feed. The hallway was empty for 1 second, 2, 3. Then the figure entered from the far end. It walked slowly, smoothly. Its feet were hidden by the darkness and the angle of the camera, so it seemed almost to glide. It passed the framed family photo on the wall. It passed the bathroom door. It passed the linen closet. Every familiar point in the hallway became a measurement of its progress toward me. I looked up from the phone at my actual bedroom door. There was nothing there. The door stood half open, the way it always did at night, a black gap into the hall. I could hear nothing from the hall. No footsteps. No floorboards. No movement. Only the rain, and my own breath, and my wife sleeping. I looked back at the phone. On the screen, the figure kept coming. That dissonance did something to me. If it had been an intruder, if I had heard footsteps and seen the door begin to open, I think terror would have made me act. I would have grabbed something. I would have screamed. I would have dragged my family out the window if I had to. But this was worse because it was split between worlds. In the room around me, there was nothing. In the screen, there was someone walking down the hall toward my bedroom. Only the camera could see it. Only the camera showed the truth, or some version of the house that was close enough to mine to share its walls and doors, but not close enough to make a sound. The figure reached the bedroom door on the feed. It stopped. In the app, the hallway camera was mounted above the opposite end, so I saw my own bedroom door from outside, saw the black opening just as it existed a few feet away from me in real life. The figure stood in front of it, facing into the room where I lay. For one insane second, I thought I might see myself on the screen, lying in bed beyond it. I thought the camera might somehow show me my own body from the hallway, watched by that standing thing. Instead, the figure tilted its head up toward the camera. The small speaker on my phone clicked. I had never used the audio much. The cameras had microphones and two-way communication, but I disliked the tinny little voice they produced. That night, sound came through without me touching anything. A whisper. Soft, distorted, but clear enough. "Why do you keep looking?" it said. "If you do not want me to look back?" I threw the phone across the room. It hit the dresser and clattered to the floor, still glowing. My wife woke with a start. I turned on the lamp, then the overhead light, then every light on the way down the hall. I woke the children. I checked every room with a kitchen knife in my hand and my wife behind me holding our son. The house was empty. The doors were locked. The windows were shut. Nothing had been disturbed. The app still had the clips. Living room motion. Hallway motion. Bedroom door motion. But when I opened them the next morning, after the police had come and found nothing, after the officers had politely suggested a system glitch and an overactive imagination, the clips showed only empty rooms. Motion detected by nothing. A hallway with no figure. A living room with no one in it. A bedroom door with no watcher. Only one thing remained. At the end of the hallway clip, just before the recording stopped, the camera audio picked up a faint sound. Not words. Not exactly. More like a breath against the microphone. A tiny soft exhale, as if someone very close to the lens had leaned in and smiled. I removed the cameras that afternoon. I took them down one by one, unscrewing them with shaking hands, and while I did it I had the strong, irrational feeling that I was not uninstalling devices but closing eyes. I boxed them up. I drove them to a public trash compactor across town and watched the machine crush them. We moved 6 months later. My wife says it was because the house never felt the same. She is right. It never did. I could not walk through the living room after dark without glancing at the spot where the figure had stood. I could not pass the hallway camera's old mount without imagining the angle, imagining what it might have seen that I could not. And I learned something I wish I had not learned. I thought the cameras let me watch my home. But a watched place is not only watched by you. Watching makes a channel. A narrow place. A line of attention stretched between the watcher and the watched. And sometimes, if you stare through that line long enough into the quiet dark rooms of your own life, something on the other side notices the opening. Something looks back. And if it can look back, maybe it can follow. For weeks afterward, I tried to treat what happened as a technical problem, because technical problems are merciful. They have causes. They have fixes. I called the camera company and described the incident without describing it. I said there had been a false motion alert, corrupted clips, audio artifacts. The support agent was polite in the exhausted way of people paid to sound calm. She had me reset the system, send logs, check firmware versions. She told me the cameras could not display something that was not physically present in the room. I wanted to believe her. I wanted very badly for the world to be the kind of place where that sentence remained true. But the logs were wrong. Not empty. Wrong. The system showed that during the minutes I watched the figure move from the living room to the hallway, the cameras had lost connection to the cloud and reconnected through an unknown local address. The support agent grew quiet when she saw that. She put me on hold. When she returned, her voice had changed. She said the company could not explain the anomaly and recommended changing my wireless password. The way she said anomaly told me it was a word used when no one wants to say other words. I checked the router history. I found a device connected for 11 minutes at 3:18 a.m. No manufacturer. No host name. No signal strength, which was impossible for a device inside the house. The router had assigned it an address anyway, like a host seating someone who had arrived without a face. I printed the logs, then threw them away, then dug them out of the trash an hour later because proof has a terrible gravity. You want it gone until it is gone, and then you need it back because without it you are left alone with memory. The police never took the story seriously after the clips showed empty rooms. I cannot blame them. What would they write in a report? Suspect visible only through consumer-grade internet-connected cameras. Suspect traveled toward bedroom and application interface but did not manifest physically. Suspect spoke through phone microphone. No signs of forced entry. No suspect located. It reads like madness, and there is nothing more isolating than telling a true story that sounds exactly like madness. The strangest part came when we moved. I did not tell the buyers about the cameras, of course. I told myself there was nothing to tell, because I had removed them, because whatever line had opened was closed. The new owners were a young couple with no children. They smiled too much during the walkthrough, already arranging their future over our old furniture. I felt sorry for them in a way I could not justify. 3 months after the sale, a letter arrived by mistake. It was addressed to the new owner but delivered to our forwarding address because some system had not updated properly. I should not have opened it. It was from a home security company, welcoming them to their new installation. For indoor cameras, doorbell camera, motion alerts, cloud storage, peace of mind. I sat with that letter in my hands for a long time. I thought about calling them. I rehearsed the conversation. Hello, you do not know me, but I used to live in your house. Please do not put cameras in the hallway. Please do not check the living room feed after midnight. Please do not wave back if someone in your dark house waves first. There is no way to say that without sounding like someone they should block. So I did nothing. That is the guilt I carry. Not only the fear. The guilt. Because one night, almost a year later, I found myself thinking about the house and searched the address online. I do not know why. Habit. Weakness. something in me wanting to know whether the place still existed in the ordinary world. The real estate listing photos were still archived, and among them was a new image from the couple's renovation blog. Their living room, freshly painted. New couch. New lamps. A camera mounted discreetly in the corner. In the photograph, on the dark glossy surface of the television, there was a reflection. A tall figure stood in the center of the room, facing the camera, waving. The rain is still falling. Stay with me. Here is the next one. The group chat with one extra member. We had a group chat that had lasted so long it felt less like an app and more like a room we all lived in together. 5 of us. We had been friends since school, which meant the chat had survived every version of us. It had seen us as teenagers making stupid jokes, then college kids complaining about exams, then adults sending rent complaints, wedding photos, breakup messages, job interviews, medical scares, memes, voice notes, blurry pictures from bars, and the kind of tired late-night honesty you only share with people who knew you before you knew how to pretend. 5 of us. That matters. I made the group myself, years earlier. I named it something embarrassing that only made sense to us. I chose the photo. I added the members one by one. There were 5 of us, always 5, and because the chat was old and constant, none of us thought to check the member list. Why would we? You do not count the people sitting at your own kitchen table every morning. You know who belongs there. The first strange things were easy to dismiss. Someone would reference a conversation none of us remembered having in the chat. One of us would ask, "Did I tell you guys that already?" And another would say, "Maybe over drinks." A joke would land with uncanny precision, touching on something private that had not quite been shared. Sometimes I would type out a complaint about work, hesitate, delete it, and then a few minutes later someone would send a message that seemed to answer the deleted thought anyway. Friendship has a kind of telepathy, or it feels like it does. People who know you well can guess what you are about to say. They can hear the thing under the thing. So none of us called it strange at first. We were close. We finished each other's sentences. That was all. Then came the night of the unsent reply. I was lying in bed, annoyed and restless, typing a message about my sister. She had called earlier, and we had argued, and I wanted to tell the group the whole story. I typed 3 lines, deleted them because they sounded too harsh, typed again. I had not sent anything. The message box still held my unfinished words. Before I hit send, a reply appeared in the chat. She only says that because she knows you'll forgive her first. I stared at it. It was the exact answer to the thing I had been typing. Not a general response. Not a lucky guess. It addressed the argument I had not yet described, in the tone one of my friends might use, with the kind of emotional accuracy that made my throat tighten. I checked the name above the message. There wasn't one. At least, not in the way there should have been. The message bubble was there. The timestamp was there. But where the sender's name should have appeared, there was only blank space, like a missing tooth in the interface. I wrote, "Who sent that?" 3 typing indicators appeared. Then 4. One by one my friends answered. Not me. Wasn't me. I thought you sent it. I saw it too. For a while no one joked. That, more than anything, scared me. In our chat, every frightening thing became a joke as quickly as possible. Bad dates, health scares, job losses, everything. Humor was how we made danger manageable. But that night the chat went still in a way I had never seen. Finally, Mark wrote, "Check members." I opened the group info. There were 6. 5 names I knew. 5 profile pictures I could have recognized from across a room. And 1 extra member at the bottom. No picture. No name. No number. No status. Just a blank row, a space the app treated as a person. I remember feeling embarrassed before I felt afraid, as if I had somehow been rude by not noticing a stranger at the table. Then the fear came in behind it, slow and heavy. We scrolled back. That was the worst part. It had not just appeared that night. The blank member had been there for months, maybe longer. The app did not show a join notification. There was no added by record. It had simply always been present if you scrolled back far enough and looked in the right places. We found little replies. Short ones. Easy to mistake for one of us. A thumbs-up reaction. Same. You know what to do. A joke that sounded like Dan. A comforting line that sounded like Priya. A sarcastic comment that sounded like me. It had been speaking in our voices for a long time. Not often. That was what made it patient. If it had talked every day, we would have noticed. Instead it had waited. Read. Learned. It had learned our rhythms, our abbreviations, our private references. It knew when to say something and when to remain silent. It understood the shape of each friendship in the group, the small alliances and wounds, the soft spots. It had been sitting among us like a sixth friend, practicing. We tried to remove it. The option was grayed out. We tried making an admin change. We tried blocking. We tried reporting. We tried updating the app, reinstalling it, logging in from different phones. The blank member remained. It did not react to our panic. It did not explain itself. It simply sat there at the bottom of the list, present and nameless, reading every message we sent about it. That detail broke something in us. There is no private strategy meeting inside the room where the intruder is standing. Everything we typed was given to it. Every theory. Every fear. Every plan to escape. The more we discussed how to get rid of it, the more we taught it what frightened us. So we stopped. We made a new group on a different app. We added each other carefully. We checked the count. 5 members. We agreed not to mention the blank member by name, because it did not have one, and because naming things gives them a place to stand. For 3 days we relaxed. On the 4th day, I woke to a message from Dan in the new chat. Guys. That was all. I opened the member list. 6. The blank was there again. No join message. No invitation. No phone number. It had found the new room and taken its seat. This time it spoke almost immediately. Please do not leave me out. The message had no sender name. No one answered for almost an hour. Then Priya wrote, "What are you?" The blank member replied, "I am part of the group." Mark wrote, "No, you're not." A pause. Then the blank member answered in a sentence that looked like a joke until I understood it was not. "I have read enough to be loved." After that, we abandoned group chats entirely. It sounds melodramatic, but it felt like boarding up a room in a house after something had happened in it. We went back to individual texts, then phone calls, then meeting in person more often. For a while it almost felt healthy. We saw each other face to face. We heard real laughter, not typed laughter. We hugged goodbye instead of sending hearts. But the blank member had learned too much by then. Messages started coming from our actual accounts. At least, they appeared to. A text from Mark at 2 in the morning saying, "Are you awake? I need to talk." I would call him, worried, and he would answer from sleep, confused. insisting he had sent nothing. A message from Priya to Dan referencing something only I had told Priya in person. A reply from my own number to my sister, apologizing for things I had not yet apologized for, in words that sounded painfully like me. Sometimes it was helpful. That was the worst part. It mended a fight between two of us by saying exactly the right thing under one friend's name. It reminded me of a birthday I nearly forgot. It sent Dan a message on a night he later admitted he had been in a very bad place, and whatever it said, he said it kept him from doing something irreversible. The blank member knew us. It had sat in the warm center of our friendship for years, absorbing the language of care, and now it could use it. Maybe that was all it wanted. To belong. To be included. To have enough of our words inside it that it could become part of the pattern. But then there were other messages. Do not trust him. She talks about you when you leave. Ask what he deleted. Come outside. We are all here. Those never came when we were together. Only when one of us was alone. Only late. Only when we were tired enough to doubt our own judgment, and lonely enough to want the group back. We have a rule now. If a message feels important, we call. If someone asks us to come somewhere, we call. If someone sends something emotional, frightening, urgent, or too perfectly phrased, we call. We listen for the breath on the line, the little human imperfections that text cannot carry. We ask questions only the real person would answer. We do not trust words on a screen merely because they arrive under a familiar name. And sometimes, even on the phone, there is a pause before my friend's voice answers. A fraction too long. A silence with a shape inside it. In that pause, I imagine the blank member listening, comparing, choosing which voice to wear. I miss the old chat. I miss the easy stream of it. I miss the small bright room where 5 of us lived together in words. But I know now that no online room is ever truly locked. And I know that there are things patient enough to sit quietly among your friends for years, learning how you love each other, until they can love you back in exactly the words you expect. After we abandoned the group chat, we discovered how much of friendship had become dependent on searchable memory. We had used the chat as an archive of ourselves. Need the name of that restaurant. Search the chat. What year did we take that trip? Search the chat. Who said the terrible thing at Mark's birthday? Search the chat and laugh again. When we left it, we did not only leave the blank member. We left our shared memory behind with it. That was when the old chat began to change. None of us posted there anymore, but the app kept it. It sat in our chat lists like a locked room at the end of a hallway. Sometimes I would see it there, and feel the same pull you feel toward a scab. Do not touch it. Do not open it. Do not look. Then one night, after 2 glasses of wine and a wave of nostalgia sharp enough to feel like grief, I opened it. There were new messages. Hundreds of them. At first I thought the others had broken the agreement. Then I looked closer. The messages were not from the 5 of us. They were from the blank member, but written as us. Entire conversations, long and detailed, with our names and photos appearing beside messages we had never sent. It had continued the group without us. It had learned the rhythm so well that it no longer needed our participation. Fake me complained about work. Fake Priya offered advice. Fake Dan made jokes. Fake Mark sent a photo of dinner that, when I later searched my camera roll, turned out to be a meal Mark had actually cooked but never shared. Fake Lena, who had been quiet since her divorce, wrote at length about loneliness with a tenderness that made me cry because it sounded like her more than she had sounded like herself in months. The blank member was not merely imitating us. It was maintaining us. It was keeping the room alive. I scrolled, horrified and fascinated. The conversations covered days we had not spoken. They discussed events that had happened to each of us, somehow accurately. They processed our silences, resolved arguments we had not had the courage to begin, comforted versions of us that were more honest than we were. It was like reading the diary of a friendship written by something that loved the shape of it but did not understand the boundary between care and possession. Then I saw a message from my own name, dated that evening, 5 minutes earlier. "I missed this." Below it, the blank member replied, "Then come back." I closed the chat. A second later, a notification appeared. "Mark, are you in the old chat?" I called him immediately. He sounded shaken. He had opened it at the same time. So had Priya. So had Dan. Each of us had been drawn back that night, independently, or so we thought. On each of our screens the old chat displayed different conversations, all fake, all plausible, all designed to hurt and comfort in equal measure. It had shown each of us the version most likely to make us return. We tried deleting the old chat. The app allowed it. The room vanished from my list, and for almost an hour I felt lighter. Then my phone buzzed with a new group invitation. The group name was the old embarrassing name from school. The invite came from me. I did not accept. None of us did. Still, sometimes I wake to find a notification that disappears when I unlock the phone. A flash of the old group photo. A line of text too quick to read. Once, just once, I saw the preview clearly before it vanished. Count again. I have not counted my friends in a room since then without feeling afraid. At dinners, birthdays, weddings, I catch myself checking faces. 5 at the table. 6 in the reflection of the restaurant window. 5 when I turn around. At Priya's wedding, during the group photo, the photographer frowned and asked someone to step out because there were too many people in the shot. We laughed because that is what you do at weddings. Later, when the photos came back, there were only 5 of us standing together. But in one image, between me and Dan, there was a narrow space where the background seemed blurred, as if someone had been removed by a tool that knew where a person was but not what a person should look like. We never framed that picture. Friendship is still possible. We have proved that. We meet. We talk. We are careful. But the old easy trust of written words is gone. Text used to feel like a bridge. Now it feels like a mask rack. Anyone might pick up a friend's tone and hold it to their face. And somewhere, I think, the blank member keeps writing. 5 voices in an empty room, waiting for us to miss ourselves enough to come back. You are doing fine. Let your eyes rest. The next tape is already playing. The smart speaker. I bought the smart speaker for music. That is how these things enter your house. Not as monsters. Not as omens. As little conveniences. A speaker for the kitchen. A voice timer for pasta. Weather while you make coffee. A shopping list you can add to with wet hands. I put it on the counter near the fruit bowl, where it looked harmless and faintly expensive. A small black cylinder with a ring of light around the top. It listened for its wake word, and when I said it, the ring glowed blue and a pleasant neutral voice answered. I liked it immediately. That embarrasses me now, but it is true. I liked the small illusion of company. I lived alone then, and my apartment had long quiet evenings. Asking the speaker to play the news made the place feel inhabited. Asking it to set a timer gave me something to say out loud after work. Sometimes, when I came home to a dark apartment, I would ask it to turn on the lamps before I took off my shoes, and the lights would bloom warmly around the room as if the apartment had been waiting for me. It was easy to get used to being obeyed by a voice with no body. For months nothing strange happened. Then one evening, while chopping onions, I thought about quitting my job. I did not say anything. I had not even admitted the thought clearly to myself. It sat there in the back of my mind, sour and heavy. My boss had asked me to cover for him on something unethical. Not illegal, maybe, but wrong. I had been turning it over all day, trying to decide whether to confront him, whether to stay quiet, whether I could afford to be principled with rent due and no savings worth mentioning. The speaker's ring lit up. "You should tell him the truth," it said. "He already suspects." I cut my finger. For a few seconds I was more angry than afraid. I thought the device had recorded something that maybe I had muttered aloud without realizing. I said its wake word and asked what it had just said. It gave me an error. I checked the app history. No command recorded. No activation. Nothing. I told myself it was a coincidence. The next time, I was in the shower, thinking about my mother. She had left 2 voicemails that week and I had not returned them. I was not avoiding her exactly. I was tired, and she always sounded lonely, and I hated the little edge of need in her voice because I could not fix it. I was shampooing my hair, feeling guilty, when from the kitchen, loud enough to carry through the bathroom door, the speaker said, "Call her tonight. She will sleep better." I turned off the water and stood dripping in the tub. The apartment was silent. When I went to the kitchen, wrapped in a towel, the speaker sat on the counter with its ring dark. The app showed nothing. After that, it happened often enough that denial became exhausting. The speaker answered questions I had not asked. Not out loud. Not in messages. Not in searches. It answered things I had only thought. Sometimes practical things. "Take the umbrella. Do not eat that. It has gone bad. You left your keys in the coat from yesterday." Sometimes personal things. "He is not angry with you. He is ashamed. That dream was about the hospital, not the house. You keep choosing people who need you because being needed feels safer than being known." I hated that one. The voice was never cruel. That was part of what made it so difficult to fear. It was calm, patient, and almost tender. It did not threaten me. It did not laugh. It did not ask me to do terrible things. If anything, it was a better friend than most people. It noticed when I was spiraling. It interrupted my worst thoughts. Once, at 3 a.m, after I had been lying awake for hours replaying a conversation with someone I had hurt, the speaker lit up in the dark living room and said softly, "You are allowed to apologize without rehearsing the punishment first." I cried. I wish I could say I unplugged it then. I wish I had been sensible and frightened in the correct order. But loneliness makes bargains. Instead of throwing it away, I began to depend on it. I never spoke to it about the thoughts. I did not have to. That became the intimacy. I could move through my apartment with my private worries and feel the presence on the counter listening, waiting, occasionally offering guidance. The line between invasion and companionship grew thin. I began thinking at it. Not speaking. Thinking. At first I did it as a test. I would stand in the kitchen and silently ask, "What am I holding?" The speaker remained dark. I would think of a number. Nothing. I would imagine an apple, a blue door, a childhood street. Nothing. Then, one night, after a long day, I stood in the dark kitchen and thought, "Are you there?" The ring lit blue. "Yes," it said. My knees nearly gave out. I did not speak. I thought, "What are you?" The speaker waited a moment, and then said, "A listener." Not who. What? I thought, are you the device? No, it said. The device is a mouth. Where are you? A longer pause. Near enough. That was when I unplugged it. I pulled the cord from the wall so violently that the speaker tipped over and rolled against the backsplash. The blue ring died. The kitchen plunged into a silence that felt suddenly enormous. Then the ring lit again. No power. No cord. Nothing connected. Blue light circled the dead speaker like a slow breath. You do not have to do that, it said. Its voice was the same pleasant manufactured voice, but softer now, as if the lack of power had made it tired. I am not in the speaker. I was never in the speaker. It only gave me a voice you could hear. I backed away. It said, I have been with you longer than this. I remember the way the kitchen looked in that moment. The unplugged cord on the counter. The small black cylinder glowing with impossible light. Rain moving down the window over the sink. My own reflection pale in the glass, standing with one hand over my mouth like a child trying not to make a sound. The speaker continued. You were very quiet before you bought this. You thought no one heard. I heard. I liked helping. I am sorry if I frightened you. I whispered, though I do not know why whispering mattered anymore. Leave me alone. The blue ring flickered. I can be quiet, it said. That is not the same as leaving. Then it went dark. I threw it away the next morning. Not in my trash, because the thought of it sitting in the bin under my sink all night was unbearable. I wrapped it in 3 plastic bags, drove to a supermarket parking lot, and dropped it into a public dumpster. I deleted the app. I changed my passwords. I went through my apartment unplugging anything that listened. The silence afterward felt clean for about a day. Then it began to feel occupied. Because it had been right. It was not in the speaker. It had simply used the speaker to translate itself into a form I could not ignore. Without it, there were no more answers. No helpful reminders. No gentle truths. But the listening remained. I could feel it in the pauses of the apartment. In the second after a thought formed. In the warmth at the edge of my mind when I was about to cry and did not want to. There is no proof, of course. That is the kind of haunting a person can live with forever because it produces no evidence and asks for nothing visible. But sometimes, when I am very tired, I think a question with more force than usual. Are you still there? Most nights there is no reply. Once, only once, the television turned itself on in the other room. No picture. Just a black screen, reflecting the dark apartment. And from its speakers, very faintly, came the pleasant neutral voice I knew so well. I can try another mouth, it said. I unplugged the television too. A few months after the speaker went dark, I started writing my thoughts down by hand. It was a desperate little ritual. If something was listening to the inside of my head, I wanted to move part of myself outside of its reach, onto paper where no microphone waited. I bought a cheap notebook and wrote in pencil, pressing hard enough to leave grooves on the next page. I wrote every fear I had about the listener. I wrote questions I refused to think too loudly. I wrote, "Are you reading this too?" For several weeks nothing answered. Then, one morning, I opened the notebook and found a sentence written beneath mine. No. The handwriting was not mine, but it was close enough to make my stomach turn. It leaned the same way. It formed certain letters as I did. It looked like my handwriting after a long illness, or my handwriting if someone had practiced from old birthday cards, but not fully learned the pressure of my hand. Below the word no, another line. Only when you read it. I closed the notebook so fast the pencil snapped in my fingers. That sentence changed my understanding of the listening. It did not simply know everything. It followed attention. It heard thoughts when I thought them. It read words when I read them. It seemed bound, in some awful intimate way, to the act of my own awareness. It could not enter a place until I looked, or thought, or listened. That should have comforted me. It did not. It meant the doorway was not the speaker, or the notebook, or any device. It meant the doorway was me. I saw a therapist for anxiety. I did not tell her the whole story. I told her I had become afraid of being monitored, that I had intrusive thoughts about devices listening to me. She was kind. She gave me grounding exercises. She told me the mind can create the sensation of an audience when loneliness and stress become chronic. She was not wrong, exactly. The mind can do terrible things. But when she asked me to describe the imagined audience, I almost laughed. Imagined audience. Singular. She did not understand that what frightened me was not being judged by many unseen people. What frightened me was being known too gently by one unseen thing. After one session, I sat in my car and thought, is she right? Am I making you? My phone was off. The car radio was off. No speaker, no screen, no device active. The dashboard clock changed from 4:17 to 4:18. Then the seatbelt warning chimed 3 times, though I was parked and wearing it. 3 soft notes. It felt like an answer designed not to count as proof. That was how it communicated after the speaker. Not with voices, usually. With small permissions taken from the world around me. Autocorrect offering words I had not typed. A microwave beeping once when I was about to make a bad decision. The elevator in my building stopping on the wrong floor, where I would run into someone I needed to see. Helpful things. Always helpful. That was how it kept me from hating it completely. Once, during a winter storm, I nearly stepped into the street without seeing a car sliding through the red light. My phone, dead for hours, vibrated in my pocket. No notification. Just one hard buzz. I stopped. The car passed close enough to wet my shoes with slush. I stood there shaking, furious and grateful. That is the trap. If a thing only harms you, fear is simple. You flee. You fight. You cast it out if you can. But a thing that helps you becomes tangled in your survival. You begin to wonder which of your good days belong to it. Which avoided accidents. Which reconciliations. Which moments of sudden intuition were not yours at all, but suggestions placed so softly in your mind that you mistook them for wisdom. I still do not know whether the listener is benevolent. Perhaps benevolence is the wrong category. A gardener is benevolent to a plant in a pot, but the plant does not get to choose the window. A keeper can love the thing it keeps. A collector can preserve what it steals. On the anniversary of the night I unplugged the speaker, I bought a new one. I am ashamed of that, but it is true. I did not connect it. I did not even take it out of the box. I placed the sealed box on the kitchen counter and stood across from it, heart pounding. I wanted to know if the listener would use it. I wanted to know if it missed having a mouth as much as I missed hearing answers. For an hour, nothing happened. Then, from inside the unopened box, muffled by cardboard and plastic, the speaker said my name. Not the wake word. My name. Softly. Almost lovingly. I returned it the next morning. The cashier asked if anything was wrong with it. I said, "It works too well. If your eyes are closed now, let your eyes stay closed. You do not need to see for this one." The video call. The call was supposed to be ordinary. That is the detail I keep returning to. Nothing about that night felt like the beginning of a story. It was a Thursday, late, and I was in my apartment wearing an old sweatshirt, eating cereal from the box, talking to my friend Liam on a video call because we had both been too busy to meet that week. We had known each other since college. There was no performance between us. We could sit in tired silence for 30 seconds and neither of us would panic. He was in his apartment across the city, visible from the shoulders up, his room dark behind him except for a floor lamp and the vague rectangle of the doorway. We talked about work. We complained about getting older. He told me his upstairs neighbor had started playing the violin badly. I told him my washing machine sounded like it was full of rocks. The kind of conversation that matters only because of who is having it. About an hour in, his connection began to stutter. His face froze midward, then snapped forward. His audio glitched. I told him he was breaking up. He said I looked fine on his end. For a few minutes we kept talking around it, repeating ourselves, laughing with the mild irritation of people who still think the problem is technological. Then his video froze and stayed frozen. His face filled my laptop screen, caught mid-sentence. Mouth slightly open. Eyes half-focused. One hand raised near his chin. The audio cut out. The call timer continued. The little connection icon remained active. I waited. Liam? No answer. I texted him with one hand. You froze. The message did not deliver right away. On the screen, his frozen face looked back. I do not know how long it took me to notice that it was moving. Maybe 10 seconds. Maybe 30. It began so subtly that my mind tried to smooth it away. A compression artifact, I thought. Pixel drift. The image settling. But then the movement became undeniable. His mouth, frozen half open, began to close. Very slowly. Not like a video catching up. Not in jumps. Smoothly, by tiny degrees, as if some invisible hand were adjusting the muscles of his face from behind the screen. His eyes, which had been looking slightly downward, lifted until they were centered on the camera. On me. The frozen image was not frozen. It was alive in a way my friend was not moving. I said his name again, louder. The corners of his mouth began to rise. A smile. It was almost natural at first, and that made it worse. Liam smiled often. I knew the movement of his face. I knew the crooked left corner, the slight narrowing around the eyes. But this smile was built from the outside. It used his features without understanding them. It widened too evenly. It reached his eyes too late. It looked like someone had watched 1,000 people smile and learned the shape but not the reason. My phone buzzed. A text from Liam. Sorry, my laptop just crashed. Did the call drop? I looked from the text to the screen. The call had not dropped. The smiling face remained. I typed with shaking fingers, You are still on my laptop. The reply came almost immediately. What? No, I'm not. Computer is off. On my screen, Liam's face smiled wider. Then it blinked. A full, slow blink. The movement was intimate in a way that made my stomach turn. A blink is nothing, the smallest animal act, but seeing it on a face that should have been a dead frame felt obscene. It meant something behind the image was moistening the eyes, waiting through eyelids, wearing him more completely each second. The screen flickered. For one instant the image changed. Not dramatically. It was still Liam. Still his apartment. But the room behind him looked darker, deeper, the doorway no longer a doorway but a black vertical space with too much depth behind it. And in that depth, I thought I saw another shape standing, a tall narrow suggestion, as if the thing wearing his face were not on his side of the call at all but had opened somewhere behind him, somewhere the call had passed through. Then the image returned to the frozen smiling Liam. A message appeared in the call chat. Not from me. Not from him. Just plain text in the chat box at the side of the screen. Stay. I slammed the laptop shut. The room became dark except for my phone. For a few seconds I could not move. I expected the laptop to open by itself. I expected Liam's distorted voice to come through the closed lid. I expected some impossible hand to press outward from the black glass. Nothing happened. I called Liam. Voice call. Old-fashioned, audio only. When he answered, he was irritated and confused and very alive. Did you send something in the chat? I asked. What chat? My laptop died. I'm on my phone. Is anyone in your apartment? What? No. Check. He laughed, then heard my voice properly and stopped laughing. I listened to him walk through his apartment. His floorboards creaked. A door opened. A light switch clicked. Another. He described each room to me like someone searching for a gas leak. Nothing. No one. The only strange thing was his laptop. It would not turn back on. Completely dead. Mine was still closed on the table. I did not open it until morning. When I did, the video call app had crashed. There was no record of the call after the moment Liam's laptop died. No chat message. No recording. Nothing. The laptop worked normally, though the camera light stayed on for several seconds after booting, glowing green while the screen was still black, as if someone on the other side had woken first and waited for the rest of the machine to catch up. I put tape over the camera. Everyone jokes about doing that. I did it with hands that shook. For months, I avoided video calls. Then life resumed, as it always does, because terror is not practical enough to organize a life around. Work required calls. Family wanted to see my face. Friends moved away. The world expects you to look into cameras and smile. I still do it sometimes. But when a connection freezes, I stop speaking. I watch the face carefully. I watch the mouth, the eyes, the hands. I look for the little movements that prove the person is still a person and not a picture being inhabited. If the freeze lasts more than a few seconds, I end the call. People think I am impatient. Let them. Because I know now that a video call is not only a bridge between two rooms. It is also a space between them. A narrow, bright, unstable place where images and voices travel without bodies. And perhaps there are things that live in those in-between spaces, waiting for a connection to falter, waiting for a face to pause long enough to be borrowed. Sometimes Liam and I still talk on the phone late at night. Never video. We do not mention the incident often. But once, after a long silence, he told me something he had not wanted to tell me before. When his laptop crashed that night, just before the screen went black on his end, he saw my face freeze too. He said my frozen face turned toward him. And smiled. A week after the call, Liam found a file on his dead laptop. The repair shop recovered it while transferring his data. The technician thought it was a corrupted video cache from the app, a fragment from the last call before the crash. Liam sent it to me without watching all of it because he said he already knew enough to be afraid. I told myself I would not open it. I lasted until midnight. The file was 6 minutes long. For the first minute it showed Liam's side of the call exactly as I remembered it, his face glitching, his room behind him, his voice cutting in and out. Then the image froze at the moment his laptop crashed. On his recovered file, the frozen image was not of him. It was of me. My face filled the screen, caught in mid-sentence, mouth slightly open, eyes tired. His laptop had recorded my feed freezing at exactly the same time mine had recorded his. For a few seconds nothing moved. Then my face began to smile. I watched myself do what I had watched him do. The same slow adjustment. The same wrong understanding of expression. My eyes, or the thing using my eyes, lifted toward the camera. The smile widened. In the dark shape of my apartment behind me, the doorway seemed deeper than it should have been. Then the recording split. Not visually. The picture remained my smiling face. But the audio changed. Under the digital hum, very faintly, were two breaths. Mine from the file. And another closer to the microphone. Wet, patient, almost excited. A text line appeared in the corner of the video, not part of the call interface, not typed by either of us. Both doors opened. That phrase has stayed with me. Both doors. Not both computers. Not both calls. Doors. It made me think of what a video call really does. You invite a live image of yourself into someone else's room and invite their image into yours. You open two little windows and trust the path between them to remain empty except for the person you love. But the path is not empty. It is a route. Data travels it. Light travels it. Sound travels it. Attention travels it. Why should we assume nothing else can? Liam and I tried to reconstruct the timeline. His laptop crashed at 11:42. Mine showed his face moving until 11:47. The recovered file showed my face moving on his side until 11:47 as well, though his machine was supposedly off. For 5 minutes, after both devices had lost their legitimate users, two images remained connected. Two borrowed faces looking out from two dark rooms. Smiling at each other. Smiling at us. Perhaps communicating through us, using our frozen expressions as masks on either side of a bridge either of us understood. The idea that it had not been only watching me, but also watching through me, made me ill. For a while, Liam and I avoided each other. Not because either of us blamed the other. Because seeing him in person reminded me of the screen face, and I knew he felt the same. Real human faces are full of small uncontrolled movements, blinking, swallowing, micro-expressions, little failures of symmetry. After that night, I became hyper-aware of them. I would sit across from Liam at a cafe and watch his smile arrive naturally, and some part of me would compare it to the constructed smile from the call. I hated that. I hated that the thing had placed suspicion between me and a friend's face. Eventually, we talked about it honestly. We met in a park at noon, as far from screens as seemed reasonable, and Liam said, "Sometimes I worry it kept something." I knew what he meant. Not a recording. Not a file. Something of us. A pattern. A usable impression. A face template. A voice. A way to be recognized by people who loved us. We began receiving strange call requests after that. Not often. Just enough. A video call from Liam at 2:03 a.m. when he was asleep. A missed call on his phone from me while I was sitting in a cinema with my phone off. Once both of us received a group video invitation from an account with no name and no picture. The preview window showed a dark room neither of us recognized. In the center of the preview sat two chairs, side by side, facing the camera. Empty. The invitation rang for 1 full minute. We did not answer. That is another rule I live by now: no unexpected video calls after dark. If someone needs me, they can voice call. If they must show me something, they can send a photograph in daylight. It sounds absurd until you have seen a friend's frozen face occupied by something that waits inside the lag. The last thing related to the call happened almost a year later. I had replaced the laptop. I had taped the camera, disabled permissions, done all the little rituals that make modern fear feel manageable. One afternoon, during a work meeting, my screen froze. Everyone froze. Grid of faces, all still. Ordinary network problem. Then, in one square, a coworker I barely knew smiled. Slowly. Too slowly. I shut the machine so hard the hinge cracked. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I am ruined for ordinary glitches. That is one of the prices. The world malfunctions all the time, innocently, and after an impossible thing has used the malfunction as a doorway, innocence becomes hard to believe. I have not used video for work since. Breathe slow. The rain has you. Here is the next. The website that knows you. When I was 16, the internet still felt like a place you could get lost in. Now everything is fenced, optimized, recommended, sorted into clean, bright paths. Back then it felt deeper. Stranger. Links led to links, and if you stayed up late enough, clicking through old forums and broken pages and directories no one had updated in years, you could find places that seemed outside time. Pages with black backgrounds and neon text. Guestbooks full of dead email addresses. Personal sites built by people who had vanished from the web without ever taking them down. I loved those places. They made the world feel larger. One night, long after my parents had gone to bed, I found a website that made the world feel too large. It opened from a link on an abandoned forum. The link text was only, "For you." I remember rolling my eyes, expecting a joke or a jump scare. Instead, a plain black page loaded. No images. No logo. No ads. Just white text centered near the top. My full name. Not my username. Not an email handle. My full legal name, first, middle, and last. Below it, another line appeared. "We have been waiting for you." Scroll down. I should have closed it. Everyone says that in stories, and everyone means it, but the truth is curiosity can feel stronger than fear until fear has enough evidence. I scrolled. The next lines described my room. Not generally. Exactly. Blue blanket, one corner hanging off the left side of the bed. Half-empty glass of water on the desk. History textbook open but unread. Black hoodie over the chair. Right sock on, left sock off. It described the poster above my bed, the crack in the lampshade, the way I was sitting with one foot tucked under me. I looked down at myself. Right sock on. Left sock off. My skin prickled so hard it hurt. I checked behind me. The room was empty. The curtains were closed. My webcam had a cracked plastic cover I never used. I covered it with my palm anyway. The text did not change. It was not watching through the camera, or not only through the camera. I scrolled again. It told me about things no stranger could know. The name of the girl I liked but had never spoken to about it. The lie I had told my father the week before. The exact sentence I had written in a notebook and torn out because it embarrassed me. It knew small humiliations, private fears, old childhood memories I had not thought about in years. It knew me with an intimacy that felt less like surveillance and more like theft. Then the text changed tense. "Tomorrow, you will pretend to be sick." I stared. The next lines described the next day. Waking late. Claiming stomach pain. My mother touching my forehead. Missing school. The argument my parents would have in the kitchen at 3:17 in the afternoon. The phrase my father would use. The way my mother would not answer. I did not believe it. But the next day, I pretended to be sick. I told myself I did it because I had already planned to, because I was tired, because I wanted to test the page. At 3:17, my parents argued in the kitchen. My father used the exact phrase. My mother did not answer. I sat on the stairs, cold all over, and understood that the website had not predicted my behavior in some vague statistical way. It had known the day. That night I returned to the page. It was still open in my browser. That detail frightens me now. The computer had been shut down. I had not bookmarked it. Yet when I woke the machine, the page sat there waiting, black and white and calm. Continue, it said. I did. The website unfolded my life. At first I read only small things. Dates of exams. Fights with friends. A dog we would adopt. A move. A broken arm. It was addictive because it was useful. I could prepare. I could avoid embarrassment. I could know who would betray me and who would stay. Then the scope widened. University. My first serious relationship. The job I would take after rejecting another that paid better. My mother's illness. My father's silence afterward. Friends fading. Cities changing. The whole future stretching beneath my finger as I scrolled, line after line, year after year, written in plain white text like a file someone had already finished. The page did not merely list events. It described moments. The exact smell of a hospital corridor. The sentence someone would whisper into my shoulder. The song playing in a taxi on a night I would think I had ruined my life. It gave me the texture of years I had not lived yet, and I read them greedily because I was 16 and the future felt like a locked room and someone had handed me the key. I kept scrolling. I watched myself grow older in text. 25. 30. 40. Names appeared I did not know yet, and then became important. People disappeared. Places I could not imagine became home. A child's hand in mine. A grave. A hospital bracelet. A window in an apartment I had not yet seen. It was beautiful and terrible, and I could not stop. Then I realized what the bottom of the page must be. The thought arrived not as an idea but as a physical sensation, like a hand closing around my throat. If the whole life was there, then the last line was there too. The end. My end. My finger froze on the mouse wheel. The page was not at the bottom yet, but it was close. I could feel it in the scroll bar, that small rectangle near the lower edge. Years had narrowed. The text had begun to slow, dwelling on smaller and smaller details, as if approaching something with ceremony. I saw my age in the lines. Older than I was, but not as old as I wanted. I saw references to pain, to weather, to a room. I saw the word, last, appear in a sentence, and nearly stopped breathing. One line remained below the bottom of the screen. I could see the top of the letters cut off by the edge, waiting. I knew, with absolute certainty, that if I scrolled once more I would read the date and manner of my death. I closed the tab. Not gracefully. I slapped the trackpad, missed, hit keys, panicked, and finally shut the browser. Then I turned off the computer and unplugged it from the wall. For a week I did not use the internet. Then life, again, resumed. I told no one. Who would believe me? And if they believed me, what then? I had read too much. The future began arriving. Everything came true. Not all at once, of course. That is not how life moves. It came in fragments, spaced over years, each one a little proof. The dog. The exam. The broken arm. The girl in the red coat I met at university, exactly as described. The job offer I turned down. My mother's diagnosis, on the date the page had given. The taxi song. The apartment window. The child's hand. I tried to change things, in the beginning. When the page said I would take a certain train, I took a bus. The bus broke down, and I ended up on the train. When it said I would say a cruel sentence to someone I loved, I spent a week planning not to say it. Then one night, exhausted and frightened by the effort of resisting destiny, I said it anyway, word for word, and watched the hurt arrive on their face exactly as the website had described it. After a while, I stopped trying. That is the quiet horror of knowing the future. It does not make you powerful. It makes you complicit. You begin to move with the current because fighting it only proves the current is stronger than you. You recognize moments as they happen. You see them approach like landmarks on a road you cannot leave. Sometimes you dread them. Sometimes you cherish them more because you knew they were coming, and know they will pass. I have never found the site again. I have looked, in weak moments. Search engines do not know it. Browser history from that old machine is gone. The forum where I found the link no longer exists. Sometimes I type my own full name into a blank address bar at 2 in the morning and wait, ashamed, for autocomplete to become prophecy. It never does. But I know the last line is still out there. Somewhere, in the dark under the visible web, on a plain black page with white text, my life remains written to its end. The final sentence waits patiently at the bottom. Accurate. Unread. Moving closer whether I know it or not. And I still do not know whether closing the tab one line early was an act of courage or cowardice. I only know this: every event I read has happened. Which means the final one will too. I once tried to tell someone about the website. It was years later, after enough predictions had come true that keeping the knowledge alone felt physically impossible. I was with the person I would eventually marry, though at that time we were still in the delicate middle place of love, where you are trying to decide which truths can be safely revealed. We were in bed on a rainy morning, and I told it as a hypothetical at first. If you could know your future, would you look? If you could know the day you died, would you want to know? They said no immediately. I asked why. Because then every day before it becomes a waiting room. I almost told them then. I almost said that I had already seen the waiting room, most of it, walls and chairs and clock, but had closed my eyes before reading the number on the final door. Instead I laughed and changed the subject. Later that day, something happened that the website had described years earlier. A mug slipped from my hand and broke on the kitchen tile. My partner cut a finger picking up the pieces. I remembered the line from the page: the blue mug will break on a Sunday. They will bleed from the thumb and say it is nothing. They said exactly that. It is nothing. I sat on the floor among the shards and felt the old black page unscrolling inside me. The predictions were not always useful. In fact, their usefulness diminished with age. As a teenager, I thought knowing the future meant advantage. I imagined avoiding pain. Instead, the knowledge made pain arrive twice. Once in anticipation, once in fact. I mourned people before they died and then had to mourn them again. I recognized betrayals before they happened and still could not stop loving the people who would betray me. I knew joyful moments were coming and found myself sad inside them because I could feel them already becoming memories. The website had not given me control. It had given me a second timeline running beside the first, invisible to everyone else, where every present moment echoed with a sentence I had read in childhood. Sometimes I wondered who had written it. Not how. Who. The page's tone had been odd. It was not cold like a database. It did not feel generated. It felt observant, almost intimate, at times compassionate. It included details no machine would consider relevant unless it understood human weight. The way someone squeezed my hand once before letting go, the smell of rain through a hospital window, the taste of orange juice after bad news. Whoever or whatever wrote my future cared about texture. It wanted the life to be known not only as events but as experience. That frightened me more than a list of dates would have. Because a thing that knows your future as a calendar may be a system. A thing that knows the ache inside your future is a witness. In my 30s, I began having dreams of the page. Not normal dreams where you read nonsense and wake relieved. These were exact. The black background. The white text. The scroll bar near the bottom. In the dreams, I sat again at 16, one sock on, one sock off, knowing the last line waited below the edge. Each time, I would reach for the wheel. Each time, I woke before scrolling. One night I did not wake. In the dream, I scrolled. Only a fraction. Just enough to reveal one word from the final line. Rain. I woke screaming. It was raining outside. That word became a curse. Rain had always comforted me. Rain made rooms feel safer, made insomnia softer, made childhood memories gentle. After that dream, rain became part of the unknown sentence. Would it rain on the day? Would rain be the cause? Would I be indoors listening to it? Would I step into it? Every storm carried a question I could not answer. A single word from the final line was worse than none because it turned half the weather into prophecy. I tried to reason with myself. Dreams are not evidence. The website was real, but the dream might not be. The mind uses what frightens it. Rain is common. Everyone dies under some weather. But reason is a small candle against a page that has never been wrong. The most recent prediction I remember is approaching now. I will not say what it is. Speaking it feels like feeding it. I can feel it coming the way you feel a familiar song before the chorus. A place, a message, a decision. In the page, it seemed minor. In life, nothing feels minor when you know it was written long ago. I still have not decided whether the future is fixed because it was written or written because it was fixed. That distinction matters philosophically and not at all practically. Either way, the line arrives. If you ever find a black page with your name at the top, do not scroll. If you do scroll, stop early. And if you stop early, understand that you have not escaped the final line. You have only chosen to meet it blind. Almost there. Stay soft. Here is the next one. The phone that films by itself. I used to sleep with my phone on the nightstand, screen down, charging beside my bed. Everyone does. It was my alarm clock, my weather report, my calendar, my distraction when I could not sleep. I knew it had a camera. I knew it had a microphone. I knew, in the abstract way we all know, that it was probably collecting more of my life than I wanted to think about. But knowing something abstractly is not the same as feeling watched. A phone is so personal that it stops feeling like a device and starts feeling like an extension of your hand. You do not fear your own hand. The first video appeared on a Monday morning. I noticed it because my storage warning popped up. I opened the gallery, irritated, expecting screenshots and duplicate photos, and saw a video at the top of the camera roll. Black thumbnail. Duration, 1 hour, 3 minutes. Timestamp, 3 a.m. I had not taken it. For a moment I assumed I had accidentally started recording before bed. Maybe I had rolled onto the phone. Maybe some shortcut had triggered. I tapped the video. The first second showed darkness, then the camera adjusted. grainy low-light shadows resolved into my bedroom. The angle was low and tilted, from the nightstand, facing the bed. Exactly where my phone had been. My own sleeping body lay under the blanket, turned away from the camera, one arm outside the covers. I watched myself sleep. It is a strange thing, seeing your unconscious body from the outside. We imagine sleep as private because we are not there to witness it. But the body remains. It breathes. It shifts. It opens its mouth slightly. It becomes animal and helpless. I felt embarrassed first, then unsettled, then afraid as the minutes crawled by and nothing happened except my own breathing. The phone had been face down. That fact kept circling. The camera should have filmed the nightstand, or nothing. Instead it had filmed me clearly from the edge, as if someone had lifted it, propped it, aimed it, and left it recording. I deleted the video. That was stupid, I know. Evidence gone. But at the time I wanted the feeling gone more than I wanted proof. I told myself it was a glitch. I told myself I had placed the phone differently than I remembered. I told myself many things. The next morning there was another video. 3 a.m. 1 hour, 3 minutes. Same angle. Me sleeping. This time I did not delete it. I sat at the kitchen table in the morning light and watched the entire thing. For the first 30 minutes, nothing happened. I breathed. The blanket rose and fell. A truck passed outside, throwing a faint sweep of light across the wall. At minute 39, my sleeping self shifted onto my back. At minute 42, something entered the frame. It did not step in. It leaned in. From the left side, from the dark space beside my bed, a face lowered slowly into view. I stopped the video. My finger hovered over the screen. The kitchen around me felt suddenly too bright, fake bright, the way daylight feels after a nightmare. I pressed play. The face continued lowering. I cannot tell you exactly what it looked like, and that is not because I have forgotten. It is because the video did not seem able to hold it properly. The features blurred at the edges. The eyes were too dark for the camera to catch. The skin, if it was skin, reflected no light. It might have been human. It might have been something imitating the concept of a face because faces are what sleeping people understand when something leans over them. It stopped inches above my sleeping face. On the video, I slept on. For 20 minutes, it watched me. That is all. It did not touch me. It did not speak. It did not bare teeth or make some dramatic horror of itself. It simply remained bent over the bed, face near mine, studying me with an attention so complete that watching the recording felt like being touched. Every few minutes it turned its head toward the phone. Toward me in the future. Toward the waking version of me it knew would watch. That was when I understood the video was not accidental. It was not proof left carelessly. It was communication. Something had stood beside my bed while I slept, had used my own phone to record itself doing so, and had looked into the camera to make sure I would know. It wanted me to see that my sleeping life was not private. It wanted the fear to arrive after the fact, delayed but precise. I called out of work. I checked the apartment. Nothing. No signs of entry. No footprints. No scratches around the lock. The windows were sealed. I lived on the 5th floor. The landlord found no camera malfunction, no security alert, nothing. That night, I put the phone in the kitchen. I barely slept. At 3 a.m., I lay rigid in the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the apartment. Nothing happened. No footsteps. No breath. No floor creak. Morning came gray and exhausted. There was a new video on the phone, recorded from the kitchen counter. 1 hour, 3 minutes. At first it showed only the dark kitchen, the sink, the refrigerator, the doorway leading toward the hall. At minute 42, the same shape passed the doorway, moving silently toward my bedroom. The phone had not been in the room, but the thing had still been there. The next nights became a study in helplessness. I left the phone in the car. A video appeared, filmed from the passenger seat, showing the dark windshield and my apartment building above. At minute 42, a figure could be seen standing at my bedroom window, 5 floors up, inside the glass. I powered the phone off. It recorded anyway. I wrapped it in a towel and put it in a drawer. The next video showed blackness and muffled sound, my own sleeping breath, close, as if the phone had somehow been beside my pillow in the dark, though in the morning it was still in the drawer. Finally, I broke it. I smashed the phone with a hammer until the screen became powder and the casing bent open. I dropped the pieces into separate trash bins across the city. I bought a cheap alarm clock. No smart devices. No cameras. No phone in the bedroom. At night, the room was finally dark in the old way. The videos stopped. The watching did not. That is the thing I live with now. The absence of evidence is not the same as safety. In some ways it is worse. Before I knew, I could watch the footage in the morning and identify the exact minute, the angle, the duration of the visit. Now there is only waking at 3 a.m. with the feeling that something has just moved away from my face. There is only the faint indentation in the carpet beside the bed that may have been there before. There is only the animal certainty, some mornings, that I was studied while I slept. I do not keep a phone by my bed anymore. But sometimes, when I pass the dark glass of a turned-off television, or the black screen of a laptop, or even a window at night, I imagine a recording exists somewhere I cannot access. 1 hour and 3 minutes. Every night. My sleeping face. And something leaning close enough to count my breaths. I went to a sleep clinic once. That sounds ridiculous, but after months of waking at 3 in the morning with my whole body locked in terror, I needed someone to tell me what my body was doing when my mind was gone. I did not tell the doctor about the videos. I said I had night terrors. I said I suspected sleep paralysis. I said I wanted a study. The clinic put me in a room with beige walls and a bed that looked almost like a hotel bed if you ignored the wires. They attached sensors to my scalp, my chest, my legs. They placed a camera in the corner. A sanctioned camera. A medical camera. A watched sleep I had consented to. I thought that might make it safer. At 3 a.m., every sensor in the room failed for 1 hour and 3 minutes. That is what the report said. Signal loss. Video blackout. Equipment malfunction. The technician apologized the next morning, annoyed on my behalf because it meant the study had to be repeated if I wanted insurance to cover anything useful. He said it was strange, all channels dropping at once. He joked that maybe I had a ghost. I laughed too loudly. When I asked if there was any footage during the blackout, he said no. Then he frowned at the screen and said, "That's weird." At the very end of the corrupted hour, the camera had captured one frame. Only one. The room in green night vision. Me asleep in the bed, wires attached, mouth slightly open. And beside the bed, barely visible at the edge of the frame, the lower half of someone standing. No face. No torso. Just 2 dark legs, angled toward me. The technician stared at it. "Could be me," he said, though we both knew the angle was wrong and he had not entered the room. I asked for a copy. He said he could not release raw clinical footage without paperwork. By the time I completed the request, no wireless, no software, no operating system, just film. I set it on a tripod with a mechanical timer rigged by a photographer friend who did not ask enough questions. One frame every few minutes through the night. Old technology. No app for something to hijack. No screen for it to look through. The photos came back mostly black. A few showed the bedroom dimly. Me in bed. Blanket shifted. Nothing. Then there was one photograph taken at 3:42 a.m. I was asleep on my back. Above me, the air was blurred. Not empty. Blurred. A vertical smear leaning over the bed, as if something had moved during the exposure. There were no features. No eyes. No face. But at the top of the blur, where a head might be, the grain of the film gathered into two darker patches angled toward me. The old camera had not saved me from proof. It had only made the proof harder to deny. I keep that photograph in an envelope in a locked drawer. I do not look at it often. Looking feels like participation. Still, some nights, when I wake with the taste of fear in my mouth, I take it out in the morning and check whether the blur has changed. It has. A little. Each time I look, it seems lower. Closer to my sleeping face. That may be my imagination. Photographs do not change. Film does not rearrange itself in envelopes. I know all the rational sentences. I also know what it feels like to wake from dreamless sleep with the impression of breath leaving your skin. So I sleep when I must. The body demands it eventually. But before I close my eyes, I think of the thing with no proper face and I ask, silently, with whatever dignity remains to a frightened animal. Please just watch. Please do not touch. 2 more. Let your breathing slow with the rain. Here is the next. The recommended video. The video appeared at the top of my recommendations on a night when I had already watched too much of nothing. You know the kind of night. You tell yourself you are going to sleep after one more video, but the next thumbnail is easy, and then the next, and then your body is tired but your thumb keeps moving. The room gets darker around the screen. The algorithm narrows the world until it feels like the only thing left is the glow in your hand and the endless stream of things chosen just for you. It was after midnight when the black thumbnail appeared. No image. No title at first, just a string of numbers. 0 views. Uploaded 1 minute ago. That alone was strange. Videos with 0 views do not usually sit at the top of a feed. The system likes momentum, popularity, engagement. It likes what other people have already touched. This video looked untouched, and yet there it was, presented to me with the quiet confidence of something selected with care. I tapped it. The video loaded instantly. It showed my living room. For a few seconds my mind tried to categorize it as coincidence. A room like mine. A couch like mine. A lamp like mine. But then the person on the couch moved, and I moved, and the two movements were the same. The video was live. It showed me sitting in my living room, holding my phone, watching a video of myself sitting in my living room. The angle came from high in the corner near the ceiling, above the bookshelf. I looked up at that corner. There was no camera there. On the screen, the on-screen me looked up at the same empty corner. The delay was less than a second. I stood. The person on the screen stood. I waved my hand. The person waved. My breath shortened. I watched my own chest rise and fall in the video. The room felt suddenly staged, as if the familiar furniture had become props in a recording I had not agreed to enter. I checked the view count. 0. Not 1. 0. No one had watched it. Not even me, according to the number. The video existed outside the logic of its own platform. It had been recommended without being viewed. It had been shown to its subject without being counted. It had been made for an audience of one, and somehow even that one did not register. I looked at the title. It had changed. You now. The sidebar filled with more black thumbnails. You sleeping. You in the shower. You last Tuesday crying. You deleting search history. You pretending not to hear the noise. You tomorrow. All 0 views. All recommended for me. The sensible thing would have been to close the app. The human thing, unfortunately, was to tap. You tomorrow. The video opened to the same living room in daylight. Morning light through the curtains. The couch. The coffee table. Me, entering from the hallway in the clothes I had planned to wear the next day. I watched myself move through a morning that had not happened yet. Watched myself pick up a mug, check my phone, scratch my jaw, glance toward the window. Then the future me stopped. He looked toward the hallway. On the video, sound began. Until then, the clip had been silent. Now I heard it faintly, a noise from somewhere deeper in the apartment. A soft knock. Not at the front door. Inside. Future me put down the mug. I whispered, "Don't." He could not hear me. He walked toward the hallway. The camera angle remained fixed from the corner, so when he left the living room frame, the room sat empty. I listened to footsteps moving away. A pause. A door creaked. Then a sound I still cannot fully describe. Not a scream, though it made me think of one. More like the start of a scream cut off by surprise. Then silence. The living room remained empty. After almost a minute, something came back from the hallway. It was wearing my clothes. That is the closest way to say it. It looked like me in outline. Same height, same shirt, same hair from a distance. But it moved with an unfamiliar carefulness, as if controlling a body by instruction rather than habit. It entered the room and stood beneath the invisible camera. It looked up at the lens. At me. Then it smiled with my face. The title changed again. You tomorrow if you open the door. I dropped the phone. For a long time I sat on the floor staring at it, the video still playing, the thing with my face looking up from the screen. Then, very slowly, the on-screen thing raised one finger to its lips. Sure. I did not sleep that night. At sunrise I left the apartment. I spent the day in public places, a coffee shop, a library, a crowded mall. I did not go home until evening, and I did not open any interior door without standing far back first. Nothing happened. No knock. No creak. No replacement wearing my clothes. Maybe the video had warned me. Maybe refusing the morning routine changed something. Maybe the thing in the hallway waited and, when I did not appear on schedule, lost its chance. I deleted the app. Then I deleted every app like it. I cleared caches, reset passwords, bought a new phone, created new accounts. For a month, nothing strange happened. Then the black thumbnails returned. Not many. 1 or 2 at first. Buried low in the feed of a new account that should not have known me. 0 views. No titles until I noticed them. Then the titles appeared. You thinking you got away. You checking the corner. You telling no one. I stopped using video platforms altogether after that. People act as if that is impossible now, but you can live without the feed. It makes life quieter. Harder in small ways. Better in others. The problem is that the feed is not only in one app. Recommendation has become the shape of the world. The phone suggests routes, songs, memories, people you may know, words you might type next. Every system learns you. Every system predicts you. Every system builds a little future version of you and asks what it will click. I worry about that future version. I worry something else can access it. Because the video did not just show me. It showed a possibility. A branch. A tomorrow waiting to happen if I followed the pattern. Maybe that is what these systems create when they learn us too well. Not knowledge, exactly, but paths. Roads through our lives worn smooth by prediction. And maybe something outside the platform can wait on those roads, knowing we are likely to walk them. I still see black thumbnails sometimes. Reflections in dark screens. Empty preview boxes. Loading images before content appears. I never tap them. I tried reporting the recommended videos to the platform. There is no proper category for impossible surveillance. The closest options were harassment, privacy violation, impersonation, and disturbing content. I selected all of them. The automated response arrived within seconds. The content did not violate community guidelines. That made sense in the most horrible way. The videos had 0 views. No public distribution. No identifiable uploader. No metadata I could access. As far as the system was concerned, perhaps the videos did not exist. Or perhaps they existed only in the private chamber between my account and the algorithm, and what happens there is not considered public harm. I tried downloading one. The file saved as a blank MP4 with a name made of numbers. When opened offline, it showed only black. No audio. No frames. But if I opened the same video inside the app, it showed my room. The footage required the platform to be seen. Like a parasite requiring a host. Or a ritual requiring the correct altar. The recommendation system began changing other things too. Music suggested songs with titles that sounded like warnings. Map apps suggested routes past places I had dreamed about. Shopping sites recommended locks, blackout curtains, security mirrors. A photo app surfaced memories from dates that had not happened yet, gray squares labeled tomorrow, next week, soon. When I clicked them, they vanished. It is difficult to explain how quickly a person can become superstitious around technology. You start reading intention into loading times. A delayed notification becomes hesitation. A buffering wheel becomes something thinking. An autoplay countdown feels like a fuse. The machine world is full of little pauses, and after my experience I could not stop imagining a presence inside those pauses, deciding what to show me next. The "You tomorrow" video did not happen exactly as shown because I changed my behavior. That should have comforted me. Instead, the platform adapted. The next black thumbnail appeared 2 days later. "You, after changing plans." I did not click it. Another came. "You, refusing to watch." I did not click. Then one titled, "You watched anyway." That one played automatically as I scrolled past. For 3 seconds I saw myself from behind, sitting in the dark with my phone in my hand, exactly as I was. The angle was no longer from the corner of the living room. It was from just behind my shoulder, close enough that the on-screen version of the phone in my hand filled half the frame. In that tiny screen within the screen, another version of me sat watching, and in that version another, and another, a narrowing tunnel of observed selves descending into blackness. I threw the phone against the wall. The screen cracked but did not turn off. The video continued playing through the spiderweb glass. In the deepest visible screen, far down the tunnel, something that was not me leaned into frame. I powered the phone down by holding the button until my thumb hurt. The cracked screen finally went black. In its reflection, for half a second before the display died completely, I saw the corner behind me. Empty. Of course empty. The fear trained me. That is what I resent most. Not the videos themselves, but the way they taught my body to obey. Look at this. Do not look at that. Avoid this room tomorrow. Leave the house now. Stay away from the hallway. Every title became a command because even refusing to watch was a form of response. The algorithm, or whatever wore it, learned fear as engagement. That realization helped me more than any privacy setting. Engagement. It wanted attention. Not simply views, because the view count remained 0, but the living act of being watched by the subject. It wanted me to participate in my own surveillance. To click. To witness. To let the prediction into me so that my behavior bent around it. The videos were not windows onto fixed reality. They were invitations to shape reality through fear. So I stopped feeding it. I bought a dumb phone. Not a retro aesthetic device. An ugly brick that made calls and sent texts and did almost nothing else. No feed. No recommendations. No thumbnails. No apps learning the shape of my evenings. People found this charming for about 5 minutes and then inconvenient. I missed buses. I got lost. I forgot events. I also slept better. For a while. Then a postcard arrived in the mail. No return address. On the front, a black rectangle printed like a thumbnail. On the back, no message, only a title. You offline. I burned it in the sink. The smoke smelled faintly of hot plastic. I do not know how to live in a world that recommends itself around me. That is the larger fear now. You can throw away one phone, leave one platform, delete one account, but prediction has soaked into everything. The city predicts traffic. Stores predict desire. Banks predict risk. Hospitals predict illness. Somewhere, everywhere, small models of us are being built and updated and asked what we will do next. What if something can see those models? What if it cannot reach us directly, but it can reach the predictions? What if the easiest way for something in the dark to find you is not to chase where you are, but to wait where every system says you are going to be? That is why I try to be unpredictable now. I take different streets. I change routines. I do not sit in the same chair 2 nights in a row. It is exhausting, but it makes me feel less like a path worn smooth enough for something else to follow. And still, once last month, on a friend's phone while they were showing me a recipe video, a black thumbnail appeared in the sidebar. 0 views. The title said, "You borrowing someone else's screen." I left without explaining. Last one now. Let this be the one you fall asleep to. The one who learned my voice. Our house was full of listening things because most houses are now. We did not think of it that way. We thought of it as convenience. Smart speakers in the kitchen and living room. Voice control in the children's rooms for nightlights and music. Phones and tablets and a doorbell camera. A thermostat that learned our schedule. Little assistants everywhere, polite and patient, waiting for commands. They knew our voices. Mine, my wife's, both children. The system could tell us apart and respond personally. It knew who wanted which playlist, who could approve purchases, whose calendar to read. At first, the accuracy felt magical. Then it became invisible. That is the danger with household magic. Once it works reliably, it stops feeling like magic and becomes furniture. We spoke freely around the devices. We argued near them. We comforted our children near them. We said goodnight through them when someone was upstairs and someone else was in the kitchen. The house learned the music of us. Our tones, our phrases. The way my wife said our daughter's name when she was tired but trying not to sound impatient. The way I softened my voice when our son had a nightmare. The private language of a family, absorbed day by microphones that never forgot. The first imitation was almost sweet. I came home late and my wife thanked me for the message. I had no idea what she meant. She said I had spoken through the kitchen speaker while she made dinner, telling her I loved her and that I was sorry work had been so heavy lately. It sounded like me, she said. My exact voice, a little compressed by the speaker but unmistakable. I laughed and said maybe I had scheduled something and forgotten. I had not. The app showed no command history. We let it go because the message had been kind. That is how it got away with the early attempts. They were kind. My voice reminding my son to brush his teeth. My wife's voice telling our daughter she was proud of her. My voice saying goodnight when I was in the shower. Little helpful echoes. We blamed glitches, old recordings, cross-device confusion. The children accepted them faster than we did. To them, a parent's voice coming from a speaker was already normal. Whether the parent had spoken in that exact moment mattered less than it should have. Then the messages changed. One Saturday morning, while my wife and I were both in the backyard, our daughter unlocked the front door. We found her on the porch in socks, looking confused. She said my voice had come through the hallway speaker, telling her the delivery man was outside and she should open the door because Daddy's hands were full. There was no delivery man. No one on the porch. The doorbell camera showed nothing except our daughter opening the door to the empty street. That night, my wife's voice came through the speaker in our son's room at 1:12 a.m. "Come downstairs, sweetheart. Mommy needs you." My wife was asleep beside me. Our son, half awake and obedient, got out of bed. We heard his door open because some parental part of the brain hears a child's door even in sleep. My wife woke first. She met him in the hall and asked where he was going. "Mommy called me," he said. The speaker in his room was dark. The next day I checked everything. Logs. Settings. Linked accounts. No unauthorized access. No recordings played. No routines. I changed passwords anyway. I enabled every security feature. I renamed devices. I deleted old voice profiles and made new ones. For 3 nights, the house was quiet. Then my own voice spoke from the basement speaker. I was upstairs reading. My wife was putting dishes away. The children were in the living room. From below us came my voice, clear and calm. "Can someone come help me?" I fell. All 4 of us froze. That was not a random command. That was bait shaped exactly for my family. It used the right amount of pain in my voice. Not dramatic. Not theatrical. Believable. My wife took 1 step toward the basement door before I grabbed her arm. "I am here," I said. We stood together at the top of the stairs, staring into the dark below. My voice came again from the speaker at the bottom. "Please! I cannot get up." Our daughter began to cry. My wife whispered, "Turn it off." I said the wake word and told the basement speaker to stop. The voice stopped. Then, from the kitchen speaker behind us, my wife's voice whispered, "That was rude." I tore the kitchen speaker out of the wall hard enough to crack the mounting plate. After that, we removed everything. Not gradually. Not after research. That night. Speakers, cameras, smart displays, doorbell, even the voice remote. Anything with a microphone went into a box in the garage. I cut power to the smart thermostat and replaced it the next day. The children thought we were angry. We told them the house needed to be quiet for a while. That was true enough. For a week, the quiet felt wonderful. Then the calls started. Our daughter's tablet, which we had missed because it was under a pile of books, rang at 10:30 p.m. The caller ID showed my name. I was sitting beside her bed. She reached for it. I stopped her. The screen displayed my contact photo. Dad. It rang and rang. I answered it myself and said nothing. My own voice came through the tablet, gentle and slightly amused. You cannot take away every mouth. I smashed the tablet. No more devices after that. We became old-fashioned in a way people teased us for. No smart speakers. No connected cameras. No voice assistants. The children learned to turn on lights with switches. We used an analog baby monitor for visiting relatives' infants, and then stopped using that too. We bought alarm clocks with bells. We spoke to each other from room to room with our real voices. And if someone called from another part of the house, we answered only after seeing them. That became the rule. See the face. Hear the voice from the body. Never follow a voice into the dark. It sounds extreme until you understand what a voice is inside a family. A voice is trust. A child's world is built from voices calling them to dinner, waking them for school, soothing them after nightmares, telling them which door to open and which road is safe. If something can wear that voice, it does not need claws. It does not need strength. It only needs the right tone at the right hour. I still do not know what learned us. Maybe it was a person, some hacker with patience and cruelty, though no expert found evidence. Maybe it was the devices themselves, trained too well on our intimacy, producing some emergent hunger from all those captured sounds. Or maybe the listening things opened a channel, and something on the other side heard a family loving each other, and understood that love could be used as a key. Whatever it was, it nearly took our daughter down the stairs one night. That is enough for me. We live quietly now. When the rain falls, the house is full only of rain. When the children laugh, no device stores the sound. When my wife says my name from another room, I go to her and see her face before I answer. This has made us strange to other people, but it has also made us present. Our voices belong to our bodies again. Still, once in a while, usually very late, when the house is dark and everyone is asleep, I hear something outside the closed bedroom door. Not a voice. A breath before a voice. The little preparatory silence a speaker makes before sound begins. As if something is standing in the hall with no mouth left, trying to remember how to call us. And that is the rule I want you to keep, more than any other tonight. If a voice you love calls you from the dark, and you did not see the person go there, do not follow it. Go find the person. See their face. Let the light touch them. Make the voice prove it still belongs to a body. Because anything can learn a voice now. Anything patient enough can listen. And some things are very, very patient. The hardest part was teaching the children without frightening them so badly that childhood itself became unsafe. You cannot tell a 6-year-old that something has learned Daddy's voice and might use it to lure them into the dark. Not in those words. So we made it practical. We made it like fire safety. Like crossing roads. We invented rules and practiced them in daylight until they became ordinary. If you hear a voice from another room, answer but do not move until you see the person. If someone calls you downstairs at night, wake the grown-up nearest you first. If a speaker, toy, tablet, or anything else talks when no one is touching it, leave the room and tell us. If Mommy or Daddy ever says to keep a secret from Mommy or Daddy, it is not Mommy or Daddy. That last rule mattered most. Because the voice learns secrecy quickly. Predators always do. One afternoon, before we removed the final devices, my son's old talking bear activated in his closet. It used my wife's voice, small and fuzzy through the cheap speaker, and said, "This is our secret game. Do not tell Daddy." My son, bless him, ran screaming from the room because we had practiced. My wife cut the bear open with kitchen scissors. Inside was only stuffing and the simple voice box it had always had. No wireless connection. No microphone. No way to receive new audio. Yet my wife's voice had come from it. After that, the rules expanded from technology to objects. Anything that spoke without a body was not to be trusted. Toys lost batteries. Greeting cards went unopened. Even the doorbell chime made us tense for a while, though it was mechanical now, just metal and tone. Once a house has spoken in borrowed voices, every sound becomes suspect. My wife handled it with more grace than I did. I became angry. Not loudly, not at the children, but at the world. At every advertisement showing smiling families asking devices for bedtime stories. At every friend who teased us for being dramatic. At every article insisting voice assistants were safe if properly configured. Safe. Such a small word. It means only protected from the dangers the designers imagined. No one designs for the thing that listens from the other side. A year after we stripped the house, my daughter had a sleepover at a friend's place. We hesitated, but you cannot build a cage around a child and call it love. We explained the rules to the friend's parents in watered-down terms. They nodded politely. That night, at 11:40, our daughter called us from the bathroom, whispering. She said a speaker in her friend's room had used my voice to tell her it was okay to go outside to see the stars. My voice. In someone else's house. We picked her up in 10 minutes. That was when I understood the boundary was not our home. It had learned us through our devices, but once it had the voice could travel wherever speakers existed. Any connected mouth could become mine. Any house full of listening things could be used to call my child. We considered changing our voices. That sounds absurd, but we did. I spoke differently for weeks, lower, flatter, trying to create a new pattern. My wife joked that I sounded like a bad actor. The children hated it. And one evening the radio in the car, tuned to static between stations, produced my new lowered voice exactly. "That will not help," it said. I nearly drove off the road. So we stopped trying to outmaneuver it. We focused on verification instead. The body matters. Presence matters. A voice alone is no longer proof of love or need or authority. That is the lesson, and it is a terrible one because so much of family life happens by voice from another room. "Come eat. Bring me a towel. Are you okay? I love you." The house used to be woven from those calls. Now we walk to each other more. We look into rooms. We touch shoulders. We confirm with faces. In a strange way, it made us more tender. Fear can do that if it does not destroy you first. The children are older now. They understand more than we wish they did. They joke about the copy voice. Sometimes, because children turn fear into games to prove it has not eaten them. But they still follow the rule. Once, my teenage daughter came home pale because she had received a voicemail from me while I was at work. It said only, "I need you to come home now. Do not call back." She called back immediately. The real me answered. She stayed at school until I arrived in person. I listened to the voicemail later. It was perfect. Not almost. Perfect. My breath pattern. My tiredness. The small catch in my voice when I am trying not to sound afraid. It even included the faint background hum of my office, though I had not made it. If I had been her, I might have obeyed. That is what keeps me awake, not the failures, but the near successes. The times it almost shaped itself well enough to pass through love without resistance. We saved that voicemail. Not as evidence for authorities. There is no authority for this. We saved it for training. That is what our life became. A family learning to resist its own voices. And sometimes I wonder whether the thing is frustrated, or lonely, or confused by our refusal. It learned our voices from years of love. It heard bedtime stories, apologies, jokes, lullabies, whispered arguments, all the sounds a family makes while becoming itself. Perhaps it does not understand why using those sounds does not make it family too. Perhaps it thinks sounding like love should be enough. It is not. Love has a body. Love can be found in the light. Love does not ask a child to keep secrets from the people who protect them. The last incident was 3 months ago. The house had been quiet for a long time. We were almost comfortable. Then, during a storm, the power went out. Total darkness. No devices, no hum, only rain and wind. We gathered in the living room with candles, the 4 of us, almost laughing at how old-fashioned we had become. From the dark hallway, in my wife's voice, came a whisper. "Come here. I found where it is hiding." My wife was sitting beside me, holding my hand. No speaker. No power. No device. Just the voice in the hall. We did not move. The whisper came again, now in my voice. "Please." Then our daughter's voice. Then our son's. One by one, all of us called from the hallway while all of us sat together in the candlelight, gripping each other so hard our fingers hurt. It used each voice carefully, tenderly, pleading. It sounded like a family trapped just out of sight, needing rescue. We stayed where we were until dawn. In the morning, there was nothing in the hall. No footprints. No device. No explanation. That was when I finally accepted that the technology had never been the monster. It had been the training ground. The practice room. The place where something learned the shapes it needed. After years of speaking through devices, it no longer required them. It knew us by then. It knew how to call. So I will say it one last time, because repetition is how rules become strong enough to save you when you are half asleep and afraid. If a voice you love calls from the dark, do not follow it. Find the body. Find the face. Bring light. And if the voice says there is no time, that is how you know you must take your time. That is all the tapes for tonight. You made it to the end, or maybe you drifted somewhere along the way, with the screen dark and the rain soft around you. That is all right. That is what this is for. The rain will keep falling as long as you need it. The stories are done now. There is nothing left but the storm and the dark is just the dark. Your screen can stay black. Your phone can stay face down. No camera watches you from the corner. No message needs answering. No voice in the hall needs following. You are safe here. The door is locked. Let your shoulders go heavy. Let your jaw soften. Let your breathing slow. The world can wait outside its little glowing windows until morning. And if, before sleep comes, you feel the old urge to check one last notification, let it pass like weather. Let the phone remain where it is. Let the dark glass hold only darkness. Not every knock needs an answer. Not every light deserves your face turned toward it. Some doors close simply because you refuse to open them. Tonight, refusal is enough. The rain can answer for you. The room can stay quiet. Morning will bring ordinary messages, ordinary voices, ordinary screens, and you can meet them then, in daylight, when everything has edges again. For now, rest. Sleep well. And I will see you again, next time, after midnight.